Not stop talking about Palestine. That's what my guest from Gaza said 2 episodes ago, Fatin. So that's exactly what we will do. We will not stop talking about Palestine. So welcome everyone to this late night special, episode 129. I am delighted to be having a really special guest, somebody who has done a lot of interviews in the Western media, mainstream media circuit, and he is somebody who is on the ground in Gaza. His organization is doing work on the ground. So I am delighted to have Dr. Mosab Nasser from Fajr Global, previously known as Fajr Scientific. Let me try to invite Fajr. Meanwhile, if you have any questions, please feel free to type them in. I am awaiting Fajr Scientific to join. And hi, Ju. Thank you for setting this up. Yes, fresh haircut. Dr. Mosab, I think Fajr Scientific hasn't joined this live yet. So we'll just wait for a bit. And maybe just a little bit of introduction about Fajr. So Fajr is an organization. Dr. Mosab is based in Texas, in the States. And Fajr has done a lot of work in Gaza at the hospital, evacuating Gazans. But I'll let Dr. Mosab explain himself.
Hey Walid, salam alaikum.
Hello.
How are you?
Wa alaikum salam. You are dressed even more formally than I am.
Yes, that's when I have a lot of meetings. That's how I dress for the meetings.
Dr. Musa, thank you for doing this. I know you have been on Piers Morgan Live. Last I checked, the video has gotten close to 900,000 views. So this is a much more humble platform. This is your second time in Singapore, I suppose. The first time was a
That's right.
physical one. This is a virtual one. Thanks to
That's
Jorina,
right.
of course,
Thank you.
Fajar's Singaporean representative. So maybe, Dr. Musa, can we start with your own personal story, because you are of Palestinian origin? So this isn't just humanitarian to you like it is for the rest of us. This is extremely personal to you. Could you share a
Yeah.
little bit about your background?
Yes, Professor Walid. Again, it's a pleasure to meet you and to be on your podcast. I've watched a lot of your past ones. They're all incredible, and I've been looking forward to this. So, uh, I was born and raised in Gaza. So my entire family is actually from Gaza and currently in Gaza. I'm actually the only one that's outside that's living outside Gaza from my immediate family. So I was born in a small town called Beit Hanun that's in the northeast part of Gaza that unfortunately does not exist anymore. And I left Gaza 1997 for my graduate studies. So I did my undergrad in Gaza, and then went to Italy, did my master's degree in physics, and in Norway did my PhD also in physics. And then after that, I basically stayed working in different countries in the oil and gas business. And only about 3 years ago is when we started Fajr Scientific, known today as Fajr Global, with my partner, Dr. Khalid Saleh, who is an orthopedic surgeon, an incredible orthopedic surgeon, world-renowned. And we put our brains together, and we, started Fajr as you know it today.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I have spoken. So you have lost what, 70 members of your family so far in this since October?
So far, 74. So 72 were actually killed in a single airstrike
Oh,
in southern Gaza. They were all displaced from the north to the south. And then I lost my mother to this war because of an infection from the contaminated water. And only 50 days ago, I lost one of my nephews in an Israeli airstrike. He was actually waiting in line to get food for the family, and they were um, the Israelis bombed the area and he was killed. He was 20 years old.
I'm really sorry to hear that. Dr. Musab, how do you feel about the rest of the world? Do you hate us? Do you dislike us?
Mhm.
Because the whole world is watching this, and I mean, you would not be human if you don't have that antagonism towards the rest of the world.
I think when we say the world, we should ask, what do we mean by the world, right? Because I do believe today, people like you and I, the average person on the street, knows the truth, right? And I would be surprised if more than 99% of people of conscience around the world are supportive of the Palestinians and the Palestinian cause. And they are unhappy, they're frustrated, they're angry about what's happening to the innocent people in Gaza today, especially children and women, especially with this mass man made starvation and fake humanitarian effort done by man-made or fabricated humanitarian organizations to pretend that they are providing food for the people of Gaza, which we know it's a death trap for thousands. So far, over 600 innocent people were killed while queuing up just to get, a few kilograms of flour. We know it's just all made up and fabricated aid programs. And so the rest of the world knows the truth. But then you have another layer of politicians, businessmen, profiteers, and so on that pretend not to see the truth and pretend that uh, everything is being said and done about Gaza and the suffering of the Gazans are all fake, all propaganda, um, all not true. But the reality is, in the past, people used to rely on mainstream media to get their news, but
Yeah,
today every person in Gaza is a media is
yeah.
a news channel on their own. You cannot really hide the truth and the facts today. So it's obvious. So when we say the world, do we mean politicians? Do we mean governments? Do we mean, unfortunately to say it, fake democracies? Or do we mean people on the street like you and I who really understand what's happening on the ground and sympathize with the Palestinians?
No, that is so true. A lot of times I hear in Western media, even Piers Morgan, whom you have been on couple of times, although I have to say in your interviews with him, he was very fair and quite generous to you. And they always use the term international community when actually most of the countries of the world vote for Palestine, right? At the United Nations for a
Correct.
Palestinian state. So the international community is essentially a few Western powers, right? That's what they mean by that. But that's the
That's right.
center of the world for them. But for you personally, especially with what is going on in the States, and you are in the Bible Belt as well, right? So you are in conservative territory. Are you not? I don't mean this in a whimsical manner, but are you not afraid?
No, you'll be surprised. I always refer to the state that I'm in as the great state of Texas. Okay, it's an amazing state, a lot of amazing people, and again, like everybody else, there is a disconnect between the government and the people. I can tell you, even though Texas is a red state, which is run by Republicans, we were able to bring so far 12 Palestinian children
Amazing.
from Gaza for treatment at some of the top hospitals in Texas. And we're actually replicating this model with other states. So, which we haven't been able to a certain extent, to get them to other countries that openly sympathize and support the Palestinian cause. And I'd like to use this opportunity actually to call upon the government of Singapore and the people of Singapore to step up their game and welcome Palestinian children that have been injured to be treated in Singapore. I've been to Singapore. It's a beautiful country. And what I've realized, actually, Singapore is exactly twice the size of Gaza, area-wise. And so it's an amazing country with an amazing people. I think they could help, given the comfort and the incredible life you guys are living in Singapore. I think receiving a few Palestinian children for treatment at your hospitals would be also highly appreciated. And we're doing this with other countries in addition to the U.S. and it's getting there. We're getting successful. So,
So
and I would like to see Singapore also doing the same.
what happens to the children after they are treated? Do they stay in Texas or?
No, the deal is we bring him here. They are treated. Sometimes some treatments take 5 months, 6 months, a year. Depends. We tend to take, serious cases for treatment. Once their treatment is done, we send them back to Egypt and then from Egypt to Gaza. Hopefully, we have a ceasefire. And I can tell you, all the families that we brought here to Texas, none of them want to live in Texas. Okay,
Right,
even though it's comfortable life, they see the
right.
difference. But to me, home is home. Um, I've been living outside Gaza, outside Palestine for almost 30 years now. And I always say, yes, we don't live in Palestine, but Palestine lives in us. So wherever we go, you will find and see that Palestinians are so attached to their homeland. It doesn't matter what country they live in. It doesn't matter what part of the world they are at. They're always connected to the homeland. And I personally cannot wait for one day have my own home in Gaza. I would leave Texas anytime, even though I love Texas and the people of Texas. But to me, home is home.
Wow, amazing. So even though 70% of the infrastructure has been destroyed, most Gazans, including yourself, can't wait to go back if there's an opportunity.
Absolutely, anytime,
Wow,
anytime.
wow.
So, and this is something that I would like the rest of the world to know that not because we're getting these families and children out for treatment, it means it's a permanent,
Yeah,
departure. It's an asylum. It's not. Those
right.
people found themselves literally homeless overnight, and we should step up our game and take care of them until they stand back on their feet, and then we'll send them back home.
Okay.
That's yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable request and ask. So there's a question here, which was what I wanted to ask as well. What is the process of getting people out? Because Fajar, I assume you must have a lot of contacts within, but
Hmm.
and that also means you have to work with the Israeli authorities to some extent or to a large extent because they are the ones ultimately controlling the flow,
Correct.
right? So how is it that you manage to do what even governments are unable to do?
So we work with many of our partners. So I can kind of summarize the process very quickly for you. So first, we have our medical evacuation team that is based in really in many different countries, mostly the U.S. They get the cases that are referred by the local um, Ministry of Health and the local hospitals, and they locally evaluate which of the patients or the injured children and women and elderly that require treatment outside Gaza that they cannot get because there's no supplies, there's no anesthesia, there's really nothing right now, right? And so they have no choice but to send them to the neighboring countries for treatment. Then they categorize them kind of urgent, kind of medium like urgency, and low on the list. We tend to take the urgent and complex cases for treatment. Then we screen those patients and select, let's say, 10 patients. We submit those names to the WHO, which is one of our partners. The WHO, on our behalf, will submit it to the Israeli authorities. It's called COGAT, but does the coordination for the evacuations. COGAT will evaluate the cases and say, this person can leave, this person cannot leave. That's kind of how it works. Those who are approved, then we evacuate them either to Egypt or to Jordan to stabilize, kind of as a stabilization countries. We present them to the local hospitals in those countries to make sure that those patients can fly in a commercial jet. Once that's done, then while this process is pending, we communicate with the US State Department, we communicate with the US embassies or the embassies of other countries. Like right now, we're actually talking about potentially South Africa, Turkey, and other places. And I would love to have Singapore on the list for receiving these patients. And their visa application usually goes very quickly to the US. So we submit the visa application today. I would say 3 to 5 days, their visa is issued, and then we fly them right after to the US. in the US, before, of course, doing all that, once we get approval from COGAT, from the Israeli side, we secure a hospital for them in the US. So we pair them immediately with a hospital in the US that would be willing to, after reviewing their medical report, to willing to receive them in the US. And once that's done, then everything is just going through the mechanics of the process, and we bring them to the US. So far, we've been working with, I believe, 5 hospitals in Texas, and we just secured 3 hospitals in Philadelphia, or 4 hospitals. So again, once their treatment is done, then they will be going back home, inshallah.
How long does this take, this entire process from start to when they are in Texas?
It really depends. Early on, during the beginning of the war, Kogat or the Israeli authorities were not allowing us to evacuate children very quickly. Some of the children, like Mazuna, which has a severe injury to her face, it took us almost 5 or 6 months to get her out, because the Israelis rejected first, because you cannot evacuate the child alone. You need a companion, an adult. It could be the mother, the father, the aunt, the grandmother. All of them were consistently rejected by Israel, that they cannot go for reasons that they've never been communicated with us. And after putting a lot of pressure through our partners, they managed to evacuate her with her mom and sister to Texas. But other cases, they can be quick. It could be 2 weeks, 2 months. Really
Oh,
depends on kind of the mood of the Israeli authorities, if they want to evacuate children now or next week or next month. But once they are out, then the process goes really fast, and we can get them to the final destination for treatment.
right. So there's a question here. Sounds like this is a very expensive operation. Do you depend on donations?
Yeah, absolutely. We're a humanitarian organization. We rely 100% on individual donors. So far, we haven't received, and that was a conscious decision that we've made, any institutional funding. All of our donations come from individuals from around the world, and it's been an incredible journey, how people believe in what we do and how they support us. So the way it works. We don't pay anything for the treatment itself. So we pair that patient from Gaza with the hospital in the US. The hospital in the US will take care of all the medical treatment costs. So they cover everything, whether they do a surgery or 100 surgeries, whether it costs $1 or $10 million,
Right.
the hospital will commit to cover their cost from A to Z. What we take care of when we ask people for donations to take care of these patients is really to cover their logistical costs. So when we bring them here, of course, we receive them in Egypt or Jordan to take care of them. We buy them airline tickets. We pick them at the airport. We put them in nice living conditions, a nice apartment. We give them a monthly salary or a payment to go by their daily expenses. We call for taxis and Ubers and others for them to go back and forth to the hospital. We have an army of volunteers basically that takes care of them. We have coordinators.
Wow.
The average cost per person, not per patient, per person, a patient and a companion is roughly $50,000. That's just the logistical cost in the US. Um, the treatment
Wow.
cost is a different story. It could be in hundreds of thousands of dollars, but thank God we don't take care of it. That's taken care of by our partner hospitals. And again, we would love to replicate the same model with Singapore. If the hospital says, "Bring me these patients, we'll take care of them, but you guys take care of the logistics," we'll be more than happy to do it. And again, it could be more or less than the US cost wise, but that's where I hope the people of Singapore will come in and support those families from a logistical standpoint.
Right. I mean, there's definitely a discussion to be had, and you are a reputable organization as well. Obviously, if you do it in the States, then everything is above board and so on. I'm really interested in the Texas case. You said 5 hospitals, 5 partner
Yeah,
hospitals, and I
correct.
presume majority of these people are not Muslims, right? The
That's
ones
correct.
that and that's really important. I think maybe for you it's second nature already, but a lot of people in this part of the world, they still see this issue through a religious lens. not that religion is not
Yes,
important in this. Of course, it's a
of course.
part of it, but it's
Right.
not the main part. It's not the major part, right? So I think it's really inspiring that
Yeah.
in America you have people from different communities coming together for this.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, again, being a humanitarian is religion independent, right?
Yeah,
Uh, People of conscience come from all walks of life and all colors and races and backgrounds. So, yeah, this is not something limited to Muslims or Christians or Jews or whoever. I mean, what's happening in Gaza is beyond religion. It's beyond
absolutely.
politics. It's a human thing that we all feel when other people suffer. People of conscience do feel the suffering of the Palestinian people, and they support really this the supporters, the donors of Fajr come from all religions, come from all backgrounds, come from all um, um, races. So it doesn't really, it's not limited to a certain type of people, and we're grateful for that. I mean, the
Yeah,
families in Texas are, for those who would like to follow us on and following us on Instagram, they will see how these families are taken care of. We treat them like literally like VIPs, and that's how. And again, to me, that's personal because they are from Gaza and I'm from Gaza. To me, they're like an extended family of mine.
yeah. Mm. And Palestinians all are somewhat related to each other. Everybody knows every.
That's correct. I mean, Gaza literally is 360 yeah, 360 square kilometers, which is
Kilometers,
half of
yeah,
Singapore. I
yeah,
believe Singapore is 700 square
yeah, yeah, yeah.
kilometers,
Indeed,
right?
indeed, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So think of it, Singapore is really twice the size of Gaza. You can
Right.
drive from one end to one end in like, less than an hour.
Right, right. Okay. So maybe the next part will get a little bit dark. So you have been to Gaza, and people are always in Gaza from your organization. What have you seen? So this is from October 2023. So what have you seen?
We have seen horrors, honestly. In fact, the kind of injuries that we've seen in Gaza have never been seen anywhere in the world, anywhere in previous wars and previous conflicts, to the point when we send some cases to some of the top hospitals in the US, and we're having this discussion with hospitals in another country without mentioning the name, the doctors tell us we have never seen these kinds of injuries, so we really don't know even how to treat them, where to begin. Okay, there are standard cases like orthopedics and broken bones, broken skulls, burns, but the kind of injuries that we get is very complex, and so it's not something that that you have seen um, regularly and you've treated regularly, even in the most and well-known trauma hospitals in the US. It's not a common thing, and that's why those hospitals tend to bring their top experts to evaluate these cases, because they don't want to commit to a treatment plan when they have never seen something like this before, right? And so I was in Gaza May 2024. That's right before the closure of the Rafah border, and in fact, we were trapped there for almost 3 weeks.
Oh,
Um, what I've seen in Gaza, images that I can never and will never forget. The kind of injuries used to be brought to the hospital in the middle of the night or at 3, 4 a.m. in the morning. Entire families, I mean, a father, a mother, children, all bleeding, all screaming, covered with dust from the bombing. Um, and, the rationing of resources is another thing. In fact, one of my nieces, her son was actually injured yesterday in the airstrike that hit the cafeteria or the
yes,
cafe on the beach. That was yesterday, right?
yes. And that's a cafe where journalists gather. A lot of journalists gather, right? Yep.
Correct. Yeah,
Yeah,
journalists, and I mean, look, people think Gazans are born to live in misery. No,
yeah,
Gazans are like everybody else.
yeah.
They like to live in a clean home. They like to take their kids out to the beach.
Yeah.
They like to enjoy life.
Yeah.
We were not born to live in pain and
Yeah.
misery and under occupation. And so even despite the fact people are suffering and there's war and there's bombing, you cannot, especially if you have small children, you cannot just keep them between four walls all the
Indeed.
time,
Indeed.
right? So sometimes people take the risk and go out. They have no choice, right? So those people actually went to this cafe on the beach, which really, in my views, has nothing. Is just go enjoy the views because there's no food in Gaza. There's You just sit there and maybe have access to Wi-Fi to reach out to someone maybe in another town or maybe outside if you have a relative like myself with my family. So my niece had a son who went there. He was I don't know exactly his age. I think anywhere 15 to 20, and he went there like everybody else, and the place was bombed. So they rushed him to the hospital. And I was talking to my brother what happened to him yesterday. And he said, because they don't have medical supplies, he said they took him to the hospital. He said, when I walked to, and of course, when you get the news that your relative has been injured, everyone rushes to the hospital to see what happened,
Yeah.
right? He said, I rushed to the hospital. And he said, when I entered the hospital, I was shocked. It's like a slaughterhouse. The smell of blood is everywhere, children lying in every corner of the hospital, all covered in blood with injuries. There are only three doctors and a few nurses taking care of them. No one is catching up on how to treat these injured children because there's so many. You just have to, prioritize. This one is severely injured, most likely is going to die. Leave him. Let me focus on one that has a chance to live. The same thing with resources, with supplies. You have to ration. Do I need to empty everything I have in the closet on every patient that likely will die, or should I use it on someone that has a chance to live? And he said, for the son of my niece, he said that normally what doctors do, they poke kind of a hole in the chest to remove any blood from the injury. He had a chest injury, and he said the doctor just, because they're used to it, he just poked the chest with a scalpel or like a knife, and then with his finger put his finger inside, no anesthesia, nothing, and put the tube in. You don't hear this anywhere in the world.
Wow.
And why do the children of Gaza have to endure this type of suffering and everyone is watching? Why? If
Wow.
you think that those people don't feel pain, you're wrong. I could have been, I'm talking to you from Texas, but
Yeah.
if the circumstances did not kind
Yeah.
of play in my favor and Allah opened doors for me to be where I am today, I could be one of the people in Gaza
Yeah.
that maybe my kids have been killed or myself injured and
Yeah.
myself could be amputated. Why? We have feelings, we feel pain, but the world think this is like a game. And now in Gaza, it's become like a hunger game. People queue in line in thousands to get a few kilograms of flour to feed their children, and they're killed like sheep and chased like game in Texas. It's sad to think that we live in a world that this is tolerable, this is acceptable, this
Yeah.
is normal.
Not only
You
is
can
it,
watch this. You can watch this for the next 100 years. It will
yeah,
never be normalized in the minds of anyone of conscience.
it shouldn't be, right? It's not just that it's tolerated. For some people, they are actively trying to deny all of these things are happening. Right? So I still hear people going on mainstream media in the West, in America, in Britain, and they are denying that these things are happening, and especially the spokeswomen, who are saying that, oh, all aid is coming in, and then there's even someone, I don't know whether you caught that, saying, oh, there are so many fat people in Gaza. I say, what? Where are these? What are these people? But the thing is, mainstream media cannot fool us anymore, precisely because Palestinians are using their Instagram and TikTok, right? They are telling their own stories, which is new, right?
Correct.
Previously, Palestinians relied mostly on allies and Palestinians in the diaspora, but now they are the ones in Gaza are telling their own story. So I think that is really powerful. Dr. Musa, the children who escape those conditions that you have just said, at least temporarily, right, uh, will they ever recover? I don't mean physically. How does a 10-year-old recover from that, from what you have just described?
It's tough. It's tough. We hope that they will recover, um, maybe physically to a certain extent, but maybe not mentally. I mean, one of the I wouldn't call them funny. I would say one of the sad stories that I've heard is, one of the couple of the children that we have here in Texas, they were out with one of our volunteers and their mother, and they saw a plane in the sky with this, the white line,
Yeah.
the condensate hot air in the sky, and creates this white line behind the plane, right? The kids were scared because they thought that is an Israeli fighter jet coming to bomb them. Many of them complain that they can't sleep at night. Even the mothers, they're struggling. So physically, yeah, there's a good chance they will recover, not 100%, but they will be able to have hopefully a normal life, to restore function to many of them. But mentally, I'm not sure. Believe it or not, I still even question myself whether the 3 weeks that I spent in Gaza have left a psychological impact on me personally, because it's heartbreaking. It's what you see has never been seen around the world. You have 2 million people starved and slaughtered on a daily basis for almost 2 years. No one will come out of this sane, honestly. No one. Um, Even the doctors that go to Gaza, they don't come back the way they went in, because you cannot experience this level of horror and this level of brutality and stay sane. You can't. Especially
100%.
when, if you are in a combat zone, if you're in a war with soldiers, you will think your mind will be programmed. These are soldiers, they signed up for this. It's, you can take it. And even those, they come back with a lot of PTSDs. But when your victims are children, babies, when you see hundreds of them with amputations, when you walk into the European hospital in Gaza, when I was there, or the Nasser hospital last May, the first thing that welcomes you at the hospital are tens of young guys and children with amputations on wheelchair. That scene alone is heartbreaking, right? And so recovery, I am not really optimistic. Maybe physically, but not mentally, and maybe for years.
Let me ask the opposite question. Based on all of that, why are Palestinians still mostly sane? These conditions I mean, most people would go crazy, would go berserk, they would react, but Palestinians are not.
The answer is very simple to this question, actually. It's faith. It's faith. I think the difference between, I would say Palestinians maybe and many other people, that they have throughout the years, they have realized that the world will watch their suffering and do nothing. And we see it. We see it. I mean, it seems that people think that the Palestinian history is started on October 7th.
Yeah.
No, no. I was born in Gaza, 1975. I still vividly remember until today my first day to school when I was 6 years old. My first day to school was a horrible day, because on my way to school, we don't have a bus like here in America picking you up outside the house. You would walk for maybe 45 minutes before you get to the nearest school to your house as a kid. And on that day, the Israeli soldiers blocked the way to the school. And I still remember, I was really crying, afraid to pass them and go to school. And I couldn't go to school. So this is something that has been going on for the past 50 years. We were born with it. We've seen it. We've experienced it, right? We've experienced the imprisonment of our young men and women for absolutely no reason. We've experienced the midnight raids like that you see in the West Bank, where your son, your father is kidnapped and disappear for years. And many of them are put in Israeli jails for a lifetime, some of them, for absolutely no crime. If they would walk into your house and find a Palestinian flag, you will be put in jail. I remember when I was living in Gaza as a high school student and even a college student, after 7 or 8 p.m., we used to have a curfew. You're not allowed to be on the streets. An Israeli, military will be roaming the streets, and if you're found on the street, you will be dead. So the Palestinians are arrested. So the Palestinians have learned over the years that this is you're born under occupation. We don't really know better, and we know for a fact that we don't know and really any other life other than being under the occupation. That's how we were born with it. And so you adapt and you realize that the world has forgot you or forgotten you. The world has abandoned you. The world has turned its back on you. Every time you bring your case to the UN War Council, it's basically you get a US veto or a French veto or whatever veto. So your rights are not there. Forget it. And the only thing that will keep you sane is faith. That when you know that when the whole world turns their back or its back on you, you know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is there for you. You know that Allah is watching, right? You know that Allah says in the Quran, وَمَا تَسْقُطُ مِنْ وَرَقَةٍ إِلَّا يَعْلَمُهَا وَلَا حَبَّةٍ فِي ظُلُمَاتِ الْأَرْضِ وَلَا رَطْبٍ وَلَا يَابِسٍ إِلَّا فِي كِتَابٍ. That when a leaf falls off a tree, Allah knows about it. So if you think that God doesn't know what's happening in Gaza, you're wrong. God is watching, right? But it's, we have to go through this for a reason that we might never know or understand, but we know there is purpose, right? And part of this purpose, you can see today how the world in the past 2 years have discovered the truth, the hidden truth
Yeah.
that has been orchestrated by the mainstream media.
Yeah.
And now you know who is the victim.
Yeah.
You know who is the victim, right? There is nothing called I'm going to kill children in a form of self-defense.
Yeah.
You don't kill children in a form of self-defense. You don't trap 2 million people in a big cage and chase them like game like managed game in Texas. You chase them from one end of the fence to the other and say that I'm evacuating those areas for to protect these families from being killed. So far, between those that have been killed because of the Israeli bombing and those that have died because of infectious diseases and chronic diseases, like my mother, she wasn't killed by an Israeli bullet. She died from an infection, a UTI, urinary tract infection, because of contaminated water. The total number so far, according to the statistics, about 400,000 people. If you do the math, that is more than 15% of the Gaza population. So going forward, we can't say there are 2.2 million people living in Gaza. There are actually 1.8 million people living in Gaza. And if you do a comparison between the Gaza population and the US population, you're talking about as if you have killed 50 million Americans in 2 years.
Absolutely.
Who would accept that?
Absolutely.
Who would accept that? No one. So why should the Palestinians accept it? Why should this be normalized? This is a question to the people of conscience around the world, to those who claim to be, free and democratic. And it's really a sad reality that we have seen, that the leaders of the world have never been that low the way we see it today.
Is there any other reason than racism? When you ask that question, if this happens anywhere, nobody will accept it. Is that? And I mean it, racism. I don't think it's just anti-Muslim, but it's anti-Arab, anti-Palestinian, because there are Palestinian Christians as well. They also suffer the same thing. So, is it just that, or what is it? I mean, because it's difficult to understand, right?
It's a number of things. Racism is definitely one of them, right? When you want to justify what you see today, you have to label your enemy in a way that you strip their humanity. And that's why you've heard at the beginning of the war on Gaza that Palestinians are human animals.
Yeah.
That everyone in Gaza supports Hamas, which is a lie. Um, Under every house in Gaza, there is a tunnel, right? And so that's it. You justify it that you wipe out the entire population for a reason, and you do it in a form of self-defense. I don't know in what dictionary where killing babies in a form of self-defense is justified. I don't know in what book it is allowed to kill women in a form of self-defense or kill animals in a form of self-defense. Animals like sheep, cows, destroy infrastructure, destroy, farmland. It just doesn't make sense. This is when it walks like a duck and swims like a duck, then it's a duck. When it sounds like a genocide and smells
Right.
like a genocide and it
Yeah.
acts like it's a genocide. Any way
Yeah.
you look at it, it's a
Yeah.
genocide. It's a deliberate extermination of a population. This is classic. This is exactly what happened with the genocide in Rwanda.
One.
One group was calling the other, cockroaches and
Yeah.
whatever, just to strip their humanity. And what we
Yep.
see here today is a repeated. I mean, this is what happened with the Nazis and the Jews in Europe. Again,
Yeah.
stripping the humanity of your enemy to justify their slaughter without intervention.
100%. I wanted to mention two things. So one is this dehumanization. They didn't start calling Palestinians human animals post October 2023. Edward Said wrote this in the 1990s. Vermins and cockroaches were being used by Israeli politicians against Palestinians. The other one is you were born in 1975, you said, and you witnessed this back then. That's 4 years. You were born 4 years before the Iranian Revolution, one and a half decades before Hamas was formed. So you cannot blame this on Hamas or Iran, right? So,
No,
which
this
is
is a
what
system.
they want to
Yeah,
do. They want to do blame everything on Hamas and Iran, right? But we know that the
yeah,
occupation started way before all of those things had.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
is a systematic way of exterminating a population. It's just any way you look at it,
Yeah.
you can't
And
justify what's happening in Gaza. No
the
way, other than
The
it's a
South
genocide.
African case at ICJ was basically just using statements from Israeli politicians, right? They said that they want to exterminate or relocate whatever it is, right? They are saying when Netanyahu said Amalekites, right? What was he referring to? Right? What he
Yeah,
was talking about extermination. So that
yeah,
also, I mean, we are running out of time. So the idea of the
right.
blockade and of course Israel has denied. They like to push this narrative that they left Gaza in 2005, 2006, when even the ICJ has ruled that there was an occupation even after that because they controlled the air, land, sea borders, everything is controlled, even movement, right? But how has the blockade especially intensified in the past few months?
Um, you see, again, people think that the starvation in Gaza and the blockade is started after October 7th. That's not really true. In fact, Gaza was under blockade
Yeah.
for almost 17 years prior to October 7th. Any form of medical supplies, like for entire Gaza Strip, for example, for 2 million people, I think we had only one MRI machine. Okay.
Wow.
Um, yeah. So, and maybe
Wow.
two CT scans. Any form of um, medical supplies was, rejected unless it's the basic stuff that they can run with. And so the blockade was on all aspects of life. But what's even worse is that anything that goes into Gaza has to be approved by the Israeli authorities, even a bottle of water. So there is no self-sufficiency in Gaza. We can't, have our own farms to grow, for example, products for making bread, like corn and other types, or wheat. Everything has to be imported. Construction material, computers, everything is, imported, because Gaza is, as I said, is half the size of Singapore, and it's fenced from the north, the east, and the south with high fences. And to the west, you have the Mediterranean Sea with Israeli warships, even fishermen. This is way before October 7th. When fishermen want to go and fish, if they go within, if they cross 4 nautical miles, they will be shot at by the Israeli warships. So it's a siege, it's a blockade that was being going on for 17 years. And yeah, so what happened now, it's a 100 times worse than what it used to be before. So now you have I would say 1.8 million people, because they're no longer 2.2 million people. You have 1.8 million people, um, chased like game, literally like wild animals in Gaza, from one side of the fence to another, under the Israeli bombing, with no food, with no water, and even the water they drink is contaminated. They're being literally slaughtered and butchered on a daily basis. The hospital are More than 36 hospitals have been destroyed in Gaza. The civilian infrastructure is non-existent. There's no life in Gaza. I always think, what if we have a ceasefire tomorrow, and that's it? The bombing stops. Let's go back to life. What life?
Yeah,
There's no life. There are no streets. There are no buildings. There are no sewer systems. There's no water system. There's no education. Schools are destroyed. Universities are destroyed. Hospitals are destroyed. Um, go back to what? So this is really unprecedented. And for the world to watch this for 2 years, it is beyond shameful. It's actually disgusting. Absolutely
absolutely.
disgusting.
Absolutely. I do feel that Gaza is the final nail in the coffin of the moral legitimacy of Western powers. I think it has destroyed that once and for all. Everybody sees now Western power is just based on military and economic might and nothing more. There is no the veneer of democracy and human rights. All of that is gone and it has been exposed. So, Dr. Musa, I do believe you are doing God's work. Your organization is doing God's work. So, thank you for that. But your efforts are ultimately stopgap, right? They are not the ultimate solutions, right? So, is there an end in sight? Could you give us some hope, or is that going to be, or should we just not have any hope and we should just work towards damage control rather than thinking about uh, a free Gaza, a free Palestine, or is there what is the solution now? What is the end?
You're right. We are one of so many organizations that are trying to help. Um, Gaza, or what happened in Gaza, is beyond a single organization. What we do, despite the fact that we try to do our best to save lives and limbs, and you know help people on the ground, but it's still like literally a drop in the bucket. And irrespective how big the organizations are, still a drop in the bucket,
Yeah,
because the need is so huge. It will take, I don't know, 50 years to rebuild Gaza. Some people say it takes maybe 10 years to just remove the rubble
oh,
before even you start building. And can you imagine having 1.8 million people waiting for 10 years to start restoring life to them, right? So it's beyond a single organization. It's beyond even a single country. This should be a conscious effort from people around the world to allow the Palestinians to live with dignity and peace like every other nation. Um, this is not what's happening in Palestine. It's not just an economic issue. It's not a political issue. It's a human issue. Palestinians were not born to suffer. They were not born to live under occupation. The Palestinian children deserve a life like everybody else around the world. Palestinians deserve to take their kids to a playground, to the beach, to swim, to have life,
absolutely,
enjoy life, right?
absolutely.
Having exposing children to this kind of suffering should not be justified by anyone, irrespective who they are. There is hope. Yeah, remember, I'm a Palestinian. Palestinians live and never lose hope, right? And we have the minds, the resources, the intellect to rebuild if we are given the chance. I don't know if you know the terminology that the Palestinians are the most educated refugees on the planet, which is
Yep.
true.
Yep.
And so we are capable. The Palestinians are capable. You just need to give them the opportunity to restore their life and live in dignity and peace like the rest of the world, which they deserve. It's about time. And anyone that thinks otherwise is a racist, is an opportunist, is someone that does not appreciate life.
Yeah.
And we welcome a life beside our neighbors. So the existence of Palestine does not mean the destruction of Israel. It
Yep.
means the establishment of a life that lives side by side with its neighbors, a country that lives side by side with its neighbors in peace and dignity like the rest of the world. We and the Israelis, Palestinians, and the Israelis were not born and created to fight. If you can make it happen in other parts of the world, it can happen here in Palestine. And as we say, when there is a will, there is a way. So far, there is no will.
Indeed. I think there's no will on the part of the Western powers, but there's definitely a lot of will in the hearts of Palestinians. Dr. Ang
Absolutely.
Sui Chai, as someone that you know, she said in all her years, 4 decades of working with Palestinians, she's never heard a Palestinian mother who curses God when they lose
Yeah,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 children. They never ever curse God, you know. At the end of the day, they just say all praises to God. And I don't know whether I have that level of faith. I don't know whether many people outside have that level of faith. But also, we shouldn't expect Palestinians to have that level of faith, right? I think it's
yeah,
crazy also, right? The support for the Palestinians shouldn't be based on our version of hyper moralizing the Palestinians.
right.
It should just be based on what I am entitled to, Palestinians should be entitled to as well.
That's correct. Absolutely. It's recognizing them as people who deserve life like everybody else. Whether under one country, we're happy to live with our Israeli neighbors, or independent, separate, it doesn't matter. They deserve a life like everybody else. And if you think that these people were born to suffer and live under occupation, it's not going to happen, because so far 76 years and it's not working. It's not working. Either you
Absolutely.
exterminate all, which is what Israel is trying to do right now, and just halas, no Palestine, no Palestinians anymore, or you need to find a solution. Otherwise, Palestinians, especially those in Gaza, will continue to remove the mask of the hypocritical democracies, supposedly democracies or even monarchies around the world, and those who preach justice and liberty for all, to tell them it's complete nonsense. It's complete nonsense, because what's happening, because you can't watch the killing of innocent children and say we are civilized democracy. There's absolutely nothing civilized about slaughtering and butchering Palestinian children on a daily basis for the past 2 years, and you normalize it, and you talk political language that is empty and hollow, that has absolutely no value or impact. It's
Absolutely.
time for a change. It's time to give the Palestinians life, to live in dignity and peace like the rest of the world. Otherwise, they will make us all look bad, because we will all look hypocrites.
100%. That is a warning, and a justified warning to the civilized world. Thank you so much,
Absolutely.
Dr. Mosab. It has been an absolute pleasure. So let's take this offline as well about hospitals, and let's see where Singapore can contribute there as well.
Sounds great.
Thank, thank you so
Thank you
much,
for having
Doctor.
me,
Okay,
Doctor.
okay. Wa alaikum salam.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Doctor.
Bye
Assalamu
bye.
alaikum.